Hello, hello. How's it going, everybody? Need to turn down the music. There we go. In my ears. Can't hear myself talk. Um, how's everybody doing? We missed last week. Got a stomach bug from the kiddo, which was fun for everybody. But we're back. We're back. We are. I don't know if I would consider getting to the end of our system tray integrations, but we're getting to the end of our sort of like a short list of to-do items or things that we really wanted to investigate. And my phone needs to turn off. Shh, quiet. Okay. We did like 3 big pieces in JavaScript. One of the nice things about version 2 of Tauri is that more of these APIs have also been implemented on the JavaScript side of things. And we did system tray integration, global shortcuts, and we did notifications, sort of like toasts. With that, we then flipped back to work on the Rust side of things, and we've got system tray and global shortcuts in Rust. And the idea is that when somebody is coming in and using this template, we're sort of setting up the two extremes, and you can either choose one of those or sort of like merge them yourself and get something that fits in between. Additionally, we're probably going to explore snippets, so that might be a couple more. We keep coming back to it, and we can work in like little snippets that somebody would be able to like copy and paste into one of these implementations. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to do, as the title might key you in, notifications, but in Rust. Notifications are kind of interesting though, because I think mostly where we would be triggering them is going to be in the web view side of things. So based off of some user input or some way for the user to trigger something, which is going to, I think, likely going to end up coming from the web view most of the time. So I think it makes sense to do the implementation in the web view. But again, we're trying to hit the extremes. So if we want to do Rust, we want to then make sure that we are doing this in Rust. And we could do that through Leptos. So with Leptos, we can write Rust, and it gets compiled into Wasum, which then ends up running in the web view. I just remembered that I might not have actually signed in. I did not. I need to remember to do that. Let me do that real quick so we get some chat. Okay. All right. Let's flip on over. This is kind of where we left off last time. You'll see that we don't actually even have any docs for the Rust side of things. But I feel like there's a bit of a qualification here because it's Rust as in like, should we do it like within the web view in Leptos, or Rust as in the backend within the Tauri builder Tauri setup? I think there are potentially cases where it would make sense to do it in the setup. So there might be a place where we actually do want to implement it within the setup. That would be like more than likely you'd be listening for like system type events. So you could do like a notification if your your RAM gets above 60% usage or something like that. That would, I think, make sense in the Tauri setup, Tauri builder portion of it. Potentially with some configuration from the web view side of things. But I think for the most part, we're going to want to put it in the web view. So, and we have that in JavaScript. We have the example here, and we did effectively this in the JavaScript side of things. We could actually take a peek at that real quick. And I think what we're going to end up doing is effectively implementing the same in Rust through Leptos. So there's this app API where we have setup notifications. And we did this, the reasoning behind this abstraction is that these pieces are effectively the Tauri integration. And this gives us a couple hooks where we can then set them up in the view layer. And with that bit of abstraction, right now we have things implemented within React. We don't have to necessarily use React. Somebody might want to use Vue or vanilla in JavaScript. With this split out as a separate piece, that gives us the option for somebody else to come in and implement it, or for us to implement it on stream or whatnot. But then the Tauri pieces, the Tauri integration shouldn't generally change, I would think. And we're just going to use these like off the shelf chunks of setup code. And then this, in the case of the notifications, somebody will be setting this up, and then basically we get this object back, like this interface, and whichever view layer you're using, Vue, React, Svelte, what have you, they'd end up basically being able to use this like little API that we've set up and wired up. So I think we're going to end up effectively doing the same, except in Leptos. And I'm quite new to Leptos, so I think it'll be fun. At least for me. It might feel painful for some others that are very familiar with Leptos, but we'll work through it. There isn't too much code here though, and for the most part, we're just going to like wire this up to a button, I think, which is what we've done in our view here, I believe. Yeah, notify me about something. So essentially, once we've set it up, we can wire this API through to where we can set notifications. And at the moment, you can give it an options, or there's a default. So in our example, we're just using the default. And this right here is checking for if the permission has been granted or not to show the notifications. And like this is part of the reason that I think it makes more sense to handle it through the web view, because you need this this specific opt-in effectively. And without that, like you're likely not going to want to be showing these permissions, or you can't. So if it doesn't have permissions when the program starts up in the setup, then all your code there isn't going to work. So I think this is probably a big part of the reason that it feels more natural to put it within the web view only. Okay. So let's dig into Leptos. Let's put that on the side. And you can see that for the most part, the snippet that's in the examples, or in the like example the example in the documentation is very similar to what we ended up with, because there's not too much going on. It's just we abstracted out effectively as an API to for the sending part of it. Where did moved it over here? Okay. I lost my VS Code window. Okay. Rust. Going back to what we had set up last time, so I guess 2 weeks ago at this point, we have a window hider, which on focus, when we lose focus, we're hiding the window. So that when you click the system tray and you give it focus and you're interacting with it, it stays there. And as soon as you like move away from it or it loses focus, then it hides it again. And here's our tray setup with our click listeners. And then this is our global shortcut setup. And I still kind of would like to come back to the setting up the shortcuts. Not thrilled with the default that we ended up just rolling with at the moment, but it was fine enough to ship. Actually, I'm going to undo that. All right. Leptos. What we did to start off was generate. We used Create Tauri app. Within Create Tauri app, we have a few options, a subset of which are options in Rust. And there was Leptos, I think you, and one other one. I don't remember, but the other one was offhand now. But we ended up opting for Leptos for a few reasons. A bit of it is just my personal preference. But this is mostly what we're getting from that generated script. We get the cargo, we get an index.html. This is the piece that's going to end up like loading the Wasum. Data trunk, yeah. Trunk.toml does some of that configuration there. And if I recall correctly, Leptos or trunk is the thing that's sort of like, I think is trunk the thing that's running Wasm pack, which ends up creating the Wasm? I don't remember offhand now. But trunk or Leptos is sort of dependent on trunk, but I don't think it's like a hard dependency. There's a main.rs, which is mostly just a mount, very similar to what you might see in like React. And I think this is part of where personal bias comes through. I don't mind JSX. And writing Leptos feels a bit in the vein of that. You have the mount, you can see even there, like the syntax is very similar. And then our actual app with this view macro feels very much like JSX. I mean, I guess at some level it's effectively HTML. But that's like these bits are wiring up functions that matches up with this. This function is the thing that's implemented on the backend, which we've actually removed, so we can delete a bunch of this. Yeah, and see here you have the thing executing the actual function. Greet message, get. Yep. So what we're going to try to do, we have a button already. The button is within a form, and it is then being executed by this onSubmit. This onSubmit is firing off greet. Greet is implemented here. I think we can effectively just sub them out. Within JavaScript, you can listen just for like the click events with on the buttons. I'm guessing it was more convenient since this isn't, they were expecting a name here. It made sense to wrap it all in a form. I guess we could do the same. Have the user put in a message. And essentially what we'd end up swapping out is the greet, and we're implementing that JavaScript that runs got a main. We're implementing the JavaScript that sets up the Tauri side of things. So the other thing that we've discussed on stream too is like here we're firing off an invoke. Invoke is a function which is using the C bindings to the actual like. We're sort of like skipping the whole implementation of JavaScript. There's Tauri has sort of a backend, the Rust implementation, which does the Tauri builder, Tauri setup, and sets up the whole like process or the whole loop, main loop on the Rust side of things. In the web view, you render a thing, and then you through the IPC layer communicate to that backend. It's not like a backend server like a local host, but you can think of it kind of in the same vein. In V1, we had a lot of these APIs implemented in Rust. And when you're working with the APIs and you're within the context of that backend, you're effectively just like executing those functions directly. But then we needed a way to invoke commands or invoke some of these functions. Greet here you can see is a command. Or, well, maybe you can't see it, but the greet is a command that is then wired up in the backend, and we're firing off an invoke, which talks with the backend. So much of what was implemented in V2 was wiring up more of these JavaScript APIs that then fired off the invoke. So you could always kind of do a lot of this. It was just a lot more wiring on your end. Muns Mania? Moons? Thanks for stopping by. So, what we have in JavaScript right now is this. This is doing some work to check if we have permissions or not, and then firing off that API, and then giving us like an interface where we can send from. But this is in JavaScript, and I think we kind of want to do some of it in Rust. And I'm kind of okay using this invoke directly. So I think that's going to end up being the thing that we want to talk about it a little bit, and where most of this conversation is going to be around is the fact that if we swap this out, the greet message, and we want to fire off a thing, the work that we're going to be doing is this is doing an invoke greet. So we're invoking a command. We're effectively just skipping the JavaScript and going directly to that invoke. Do we try to use the JavaScript API and fire off these, or do we do the invokes directly? So I think that's probably going to be the thing that we want to think about a little bit. Are you using a clib extern C? You're new to Rust and Tauri. Nice. It is. There's lots of layers here. Wasum is in some ways almost an alternative to JavaScript. It's dependent on JavaScript at this current time. I don't know that it's always going to be that way, and maybe in the future it's not going to be dependent on JavaScript. But that being said, Wasum is a low-level language that is mostly intended to be a compile target. You compile other languages into Wasum, and that Wasum can run. In this case, we care about specifically running it within the context of a web view or within a browser. Rust has always worked very well with Wasum, and there's a few libraries that do this conversion from Rust code into Wasum, which then is ended up loading in the browser. Wasum bindgen is that piece. It's the thing that like bootstraps that conversion. So this Wasm bindgen and this xturn C is I'm not specifically using like a C library. I think internally it probably does some of this. I'm not 100% certain, but I know the Wasm bindgen is the like we basically just set it up and we don't have to think about it. So probably there's some C involved, but it's in some ways hidden. Is maybe probably the best way to say it. Hey, Chow. Good to see you. Good to see you. So I think what is set up here, and to be clear, Moons, this is if you do a create Tauri app and it generates and you choose the options to generate Leptos, this is what you're getting. So I didn't write any of this code. This is pretty much directly from that create Tauri app generated piece. And this, I think, is the bit that we've added. So it's in some ways within create Tauri app, we're trying to mostly just give you a clean implementation of whatever option you choose. So in this case, Leptos. And then we're sprinkling a little bit on top and handling some of the wiring, because that's the thing that's difficult to explain and time consuming for people to do. So it's really nice to just like start from a project. This little bit of wiring is wiring up go away. This is wiring up the Invoke to communicate to through this injected script, firing out these invokes to the Rust backend. So we can either use this invoke directly as it is, or we can try to implement the JavaScript stuff. I'm actually honestly tempted to do. I'm honestly tempted to do the invokes directly. Because the alternative would be to like put this in the global namespace, which would work. And we might want to like look at how the notification plugin is implemented. But I think we could invoke directly. So that being said, we do need to add a few things. There is a cargo Tauri add notification. I'm curious what that's going to end up doing, but we do need to add it as a plugin. I don't know that we need to do this bit because we're not actually going to be using it through there, I don't think. But it will be on the window object, so it might just make sense to use it, because there's going to be some implementation. There's going to be some implementation of the permission granted check that we would have to deal with. Let's look at the plugin notification. There's a plugins workspace, and v2 is the default now. Notification. So guest.js is mostly where we're going to go. Whoa, what is happening with my light? Okay, I don't need the should turn that light off. My light is, I think that light is dying. It'll like freak out and occasionally just switch colors slightly. It'll like blue shift. It's kind of weird. So it's doing this window.notification and it invoke. Create channel. Yeah, see, it's doing a fair amount. Permission granted. Yeah, so here it's checking on the window notification. So if we were to use like the invoke directly, we would end up having to do a bunch of this ourselves. Like we would re-implement this. We would end up re-implementing this within Leptos. Is using Leptos. Oh, where did that cough come from? Holy cow. Is using Leptos better for types than TS? I think better is relative. I'll say this: Rust its typing system is like a top level priority. When things are implemented, it's implemented using Rust and its types. If you're trying to do something in JavaScript or TypeScript, obviously in JavaScript, the closest you're going to have to types is which IDE is helping you with. In TypeScript, you have a little bit more enforcement, but it's not an ecosystem level thing. At any point, somebody could do a type any and like blitz a whole bunch of your types. Or just the libraries you're using aren't well typed. And you could do that in user code or you can do that in libraries. So the typing is going to naturally be more strict in Rust and Leptos because of that like base level expectation. Better, if you're into the types, that is potentially a feature. If you're not, then maybe that's more of a con for you. I do know people that are what is this web view? Oh, how did I open that up? I do know people that would prefer to write this, and the Rust is a little bit easier to like the ecosystem feels more stable in some ways, and there's so many packages in JavaScript, and the way the package managers have historically worked, it makes things a little bit more brittle because there's so many pieces and like you can have so many versions of the package, whereas Rust it's going to complain a lot more. So like once you get a thing working in Rust, as long as you don't upgrade anything or touch any of it, it very likely is going to continue working. Whereas with JavaScript, things are a little bit more of a moving target. You like touch one thing or you upgrade one thing and you could have cascading issues. And like with TypeScript, every minor, there can be like breaking changes. Like there's not compatibility between minors. So it's just an entirely different ecosystem. And if you want the stability that seems to generally come more in Rust, that's what you're gonna, like that would be one of the selling points. Do I want to write this and it just like continues to work, and I don't have to worry about touching it and actually breaking something? But also, people see this and go, "Oh, that's a lot of work to write that and get all those types right." Like getting this type right is, if you're unfamiliar with it, it's not an insignificant amount of effort. So, what's the trade-off? Trade-offs in everything, right? So I think this update name is going to stay. The script message is going to change, and we're going to switch this into a button that fires off the invoke. Now, the question that we were looking at was, do we use the invoke directly, or do we try to use this like through the window object? I might need to get a drink of water here. So the thing is, we would end up writing a bunch of this, and it's using a few things also on the window object to check if there's permissions and such. We could try to do these invoke pieces ourselves, but the fact that like it's using these pieces that are on the window object, I'm tempted to see if we can also just do the same, in which case it is going to feel more like this, but instead of importing from a package, we are just going to wire it up through the window, because it should come in from the window when we add the plugin here. Yeah, suffocating. We actually got we're getting a cold snap. We got some rain and got much colder, but it warmed up, and I think all the pollen and everything started coming out, and allergies are not my friend. I pretty much have allergies to something in every season. So I think we try this. Let's see what this does. We're gonna get the cargo stuff definitely, and I'm presuming it's going to wire it up to our main. We got this, so that seems to be working as expected. I am in a subfolder, so our Git doesn't work. Here's the main folder. So we got the plugin notification, and then we got this. So this will end up injecting it into the window object. So with this little bit of setup, I think what we can do is we can say cargo Tauri. Is it cargo Tauri dev? It will run trunk serve, which serves the Wasum binded Leptos into our web view, or it serves it so we can load it into the web view. This is the Tauri backend doing the compilation. And we should be able to check on the window object that we're getting this notification. So then I think what we end up doing is, instead of firing off an invoke and having this bit tied to the core window Tauri core, we instead wired up to the notification on. Oh, we're up to the notification there. No method named rect found for struct. And that is in. We might need to bump some of our Tauri stuff here. When you're upgrading Tauri, let's go ahead and just try that real quick. I think there was a recent release that we might not be on, and we might have gotten some new bits and some slightly older bits. So that's a migration. I think this is the docs that we want, but Sycamore. Sycamore was the other one. Sycamore, you, and Leptos, I think, are the options. I want to say it's cargo Tauri upgrade. We'll find out. Does version 2 have breaking changes? Yes. That's if you're following Sumver strictly, the only time you do breaking changes is when you have a major. That seems to be less common these days. That is following Sumver strictly, because usually when you have breaking changes, it's when you're trying to push out major features, and those major features then end up incorporating breaking changes. So what's kind of happened is, especially companies that have one foot in OSS, they have basically used majors as like a marketing push. So it's less about the breaking change and more about the new feature, which theoretically could just come in a minor version. Long story short, yes, there are some. There is a migration, and we did do a stream on the migration. Depending on your integrations, it may or may not be terribly involved. It's kind of hard to say. The permission model changed a bunch, and version 2 has shifted things around to better incorporate mobile. So in version 2, one of the major features is mobile support. So iOS, Android, and then some of the, like theoretically, some of the more eclectic integrations could work. So like theoretically, you could do an app for TV, or like iOS Wear, iOS Watch, or iOS Wear is the watch, right? Then there's the whatever they call the spatial goggle thing. The I just realized I have my glasses on today. Normally I wear contacts, but not today, I guess. So long story short, I don't know that I want to do this. What are our options here? Cargo, Tauri, -help. No, I thought there was an upgrade. Dev, build, migrate, add. Okay, so we can do source Tauri, and we can do a cargo upgrade. And now that'll give us, when we've set these versions as, we're not like pinning to a specific version number. We've specifically said 2.0 beta, which means anything that is within the range of beta dot something. And if we do, I can never remember if it's a cargo upgrade or cargo update, because I feel like different package managers and different like homebrew and whatnot use those for different contexts, and I can never keep it all straight. If this ever finishes, though, holy cow! I think this is going to give us basically like the newest version of Tauri built. If we look here, we can see like Tauri build is on beta 15. Beta 15, we've got a beta 13 for Tauri plugin. If this ever completes, I would expect this number to go up slightly. So when we do a Cargo Tauri dev, we should see that number go up. This is specifically a beta 5. I think I'm going to switch that to, I think I'm going to do this. Because when we're in the beta series, I think that's going to end up being the easiest way to keep things in check. And then the other consideration then is, well, you need to upgrade the JavaScript side of things. But in this case, we're purely Rust, so we don't even have a package JSON. So as long as this is, it actually like pinned these. Interesting. Did it finish? Yeah. Okay. So if we do a cargo check, and actually I didn't need to go into this folder because we have a root one here. You can see here we get the Leptos, Wasum Bindgen. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get a drink of water here. These are the bits that come in from Leptos, and these end up being Tauri specific because it's nested within the SRC Tauri, but they're tied together via the workspace. So I can actually go up a folder and do the cargo check here, and it's still. I mean, it's not gonna work because we're still getting that failure. But method not found in tray icon in beta 19. So you can see, Tauri beta 19. Okay, what were we on before? Beta 19. Okay. And I did save that. Cargo. Is it update? Okay. Update versus upgrade, maybe. I don't see any. So Rye updated slightly. Muda. Don't see anything. And okay, Tauri plugin updated. So let's do a cargo check, and we're getting a rest analyzer check too in the background here. So that's why we get this blocking. So when it does a cargo check, it does like a file lock on that cache / the lock file. Can we change that? We're okay. Call it Leptos Tauri. I bootstrapped it in a separate folder and then copied it in, which is why I called it delete me eventually. All right, let's try a cargo Tauri dev and see if we're still getting that error. I think we've got all the most recent updated pieces. And we do have some icons. Okay, Leptos built. And hopefully this works. Debugging internal stuff would not be terribly fun to do right now. Sorry, runtime. Okay. So things changed a little bit. Closure is expected to take 3 arguments, but it takes 2. So main RS 91. Shortcuts handlers. Handlers. App global shortcut. Register multiple shortcuts with a handler. So we've got a single handler and we've got multiple shortcuts. This closure is expected to take 3 arguments, but it takes 2. So it takes 2 arguments. and we gave it to S in handler function. Into iter. I'm not seeing exactly what we need to do. Move. So we get a setup. Shortcut. Shortcut comes. So we get an app. So that would be on line. Oh, wait. Here, app and shortcut. Got it. Okay. Expected closure, that takes 3 arguments. So this takes 2. So handler takes app handle, shortcut event. So there is a shortcut event. Shortcut event. I don't know if we're gonna actually end up needing that. We'll give that a shot. Okay, it's rebuilding. Wow, you just Google Leptos. You never know you could have a server-side rendering user Tauri. Yes. Yeah, yes, not as confirmation, but not really. So theoretically, you could do server-side rendering, but there's no real benefit to do that. To do server-side rendering would mean that you need to render a server, or you need to be running a server that would render it. And theoretically, you could like embed that within the Rust side of things and do that. So when somebody visits like your index.html, you can render that. But the reason you do server-side rendering is you, rather than giving a shell and letting the client download a big JavaScript payload and try to render everything client side, you're trying to give them some HTML with content immediately. So there's like speed reasons and SEO reasons are probably the biggest reasons to do that. Neither of which you really need in an app. And it's just a heck of a lot more complexity for no benefit. So theoretically, you could get server-side rendering working with Tauri, but there's basically no benefit to do that because the loading, all the content is like contained within the binary already. So when you're starting it up, the only performance thing to think about would be how you're like splitting up your JavaScript, because you're not worrying about the transferring of the content. You're just worried about loading and running the JavaScript in the web view. So having an app shell and loading JavaScript there isn't as big of a deal as it is when you're talking strictly web browser. So as far as Leptos is concerned, Leptos it has integrations with something like Axum, where Axum is equivalent to, or in the same vein of something like Express in JavaScript. That's a server, a routing layer, which when you visit it, it it like returns the content that is shown in the browser. We don't need any of that. All we need is like the actual content. So we don't need Axum. We just need the thing to be pre-rendered. So it would be like statics like generators work well with Tauri because it's basically like pre-building these assets, which then are expected to be loaded once and combined in that binary and loaded once you open up the app. So in the same vein, Leptos has integrations to work with Axum because that's a way to deploy it. That doesn't mean it's the only way to deploy it. And part of server-side rendering is just building it on demand versus building it ahead of time. So instead of server-side rendering, building it ahead of time, we can just pre-build it. Yeah, so and I mean, it's going to be all the same where Next.js has server-side rendering integration. It also has static site generation integration. And every framework seems to have some concept of both or all of these. Some of them are a little bit more SSR. They lean more SSR. But at the end of the day, it's just pre-build versus on-demand build effectively. Yeah, Tuanle, no need for SEO with desktop app. So SSR is no benefit here. Exactly, yep. Yeah, I think the big thing is the size of the payload and getting the user to the point where they're rendering things quicker. And with that, the SEO, because the SEO comes from bots crawling the website, and if they can get to that content faster, it's going to give improved signals to the bot that SEO scores should be higher. You know, if it loads fast, if it has all the content there, and they don't need to run a whole bunch of scripts to get the content, that tends to result in better SEO. Give the bot better signals to improve that SEO score. I mean, it's a whole separate topic, but you know that like high level, that's the thinking. They don't specifically spill the secret sauce on all the SEO stuff, but that's, like I said, whole separate conversation. Yeah. So the long story short, Leptos does have a server-side integration, server-side rendering through something like Axum. We're not using this. We just need the Wasum bindgen build and the Wasum files built. Okay. I think have a thing. I think it ran. There we go. Sweet. Pop up. We have our we need to work on the sizing a little bit, but we got the thing running. So now, we want to look at this is going to be a little bit awkward. I think we might want to turn off that focus hiding, but we have, yep, notification is permission granted, not allowed. So we're going to still need to look at that. And this is coming in from, on the window object, it is being loaded and notifying us that that this is failing. So you can see here, like Tauri internals, this gets hoisted, the right word here. Exposed when you opt into globals as a window __ Tauri. It always lives in the Tauri internals, but this is sort of the private API. Have we opted into? I don't know that we've specifically opted into the global on this one, so we might need to double check that. Here, actually, we have. Okay, so Tauri, and you can see app core. When we have this Wasm bindgen, it's in the JavaScript namespace window, Tauri core, we're effectively like binding to this bit here, of which we then have the invoke. I think we want to do something similar, but instead of using the core and invoke directly, I think we use the notification instead, in which case we could then, when we call invoke here, instead of calling invoke, we are instead calling the notification APIs. So if we pull back our JavaScript here, and we look at the integration, we are set tray here. We're on load checking if permissions are granted. I think we could probably do something similar. It might make sense to just embed it directly into the button here though. First of all, I'm going to turn off the hiding functionality for the moment because I want to be able to interact with this over and over and not have to worry about the focus part. So I'm going to take off this because I don't want to hide it. I might get some warnings because we're not using some of these variables, which is fine. And let's go back here and we're going to rewire some of this. It's not. Speaking of toast notifications, did I lose seems fine. Seems fine. I think with all the rain we've my internet's been a little bit in and out. Okay, so let's call it greet message. Greet message. I mean, we're not going to be showing a greet message, and we don't really need to worry about that directly. So I think I'm going to take this out. Actually, what was here? Set name. So we're going to say, I think this is a create signal is sort of in the vein of like a use state from what I've seen of it in Leptos. So me would be, we're going to call it toast message. We'll say set toast message. We don't need the greet message. I don't know that I'm actually going to need this. Maybe I'm going to actually ignore it for the moment. Input, greet input. This would be toast message input. Enter a message. On submit, we're going to say toast notification. Yeah, toast. I don't know if y'all are seeing it. Dang it. Okay, global shortcut. You are also being turned off for the moment. We will deal with you in the future. Sorry for asking an off-topic question. No worries. Would it be possible to have Tauri running on the background, meaning instead of closing it, minimize it to the tray on Windows? Yes, that is effectively what we're trying to do with this. So the conceptually, what we're doing with this system tray app template, gonna go ahead and drop a linky link. That's not what I wanted. Personal tray app. We are implementing both in JavaScript and in Rust, sort of doing the two extremes. 3 things. We're doing the system tray integration, the global shortcuts, and toast notifications. And we're doing all, like, purely JavaScript, or as close to only JavaScript as we can get, and as close to only Rust as we can get, with the expectation that it's likely somebody might follow in the middle. They can sort of like choose their foundation and copy bits between both. Like maybe I just want shortcuts in the Tauri setup and I want everything else in the web view. Having both extremes set up kind of gives you the flexibility to merge them as you see fit. But the idea with the system tray app is we want to have a quick way to bootstrap a little app that lives in your system tray. Is the main window. As it stands right now, I think you have to have a main window. So like the best you can do is hide it. But effectively, it sits in your system tray. The main window is hidden until you interact with the system tray, and it'll show you, whatever you want to end up programming into it. So you could do like a little to-do thing, or a Pomodoro timer, or like a heads-up display for information about where your team's at or something. So you can click on the system tray, get it to pop up that way. The global notifications is another way to trigger this thing to pop up into view. And the notifications would be something that, based on whatever you're implementing in your app, you can, as it's running in the background, fire off notifications to be shown. So if you are doing a tracker for your team's status, if somebody comes back from lunch, you could get a notification that which feels in some ways a little bit creepy, but you could get a notification that they're back at the office, or back in their work environment. So what we're doing with this is a template that gives you a basis to like quickly spin up and start these pieces. So you could theoretically make like a whole bunch of little apps and just have them always running in the background. And the then expectation is we can ideally make it in a way where this is going to be performant in a way that, if it's always running and in the background, we want it to be performant. Let's put it that way. So that would be the other thing that we can kind of start to dig into. So, long story short, not off topic, because that's literally what we're trying to do with this. And we have the JavaScript side of things pretty much completely implemented, I think, as far as these like first checkboxes. And we're finishing up the Rust right now. So if you have a specific use case, you could use this as a template, public template within GitHub. You can create your code right off of this, and then start implementing whatever thing you wanted to do. Closing to tray and running on the background is the only thing, right? Yeah. So I think if for V1 it very much was you couldn't close the main window. With all the app handle stuff, you might be able to. What we've done right now is just hidden it. So we consider the main window this like little pop-up thing, rather than like we don't even actually have them implemented here, but rather than showing a like native menu, we're literally just popping up the app at the moment. And then when you click away, I've actually turned it off now, but when you click away, we have it set up to hide it. So it is almost intended to be like replacing that native menu. So yeah, give it a shot. Go ahead and if JavaScript is where you want to do it, you could probably copy what we have and start messing around with it. And always happy to entertain pull requests if there's things that we want to improve. Okay, so we need to deal with the permission. That ends up showing up in the capabilities. We can cheat a little bit, as we have, again, implemented this in JavaScript already. And we can look at our Tauri capability permissions, and we are going to want notification default. I don't think I need shell allow open at the moment, so I'm just going to replace that. What else? Do we need anything else in here? Global shortcuts are in the backend, so I don't think we need to do permissions there. Most of the permissions are a way to, in the context of a web view, opt into allowing this functionality to run. So if we implement the global shortcuts in the Rust Tauri setup, from what I've seen, I don't think we actually need these permissions because they're set up in Rust and they're not operating in this like sandboxed web view piece. We need it in the JavaScript side of things because we're actually like invoking them from the web view. And sort of all the same bits here, like all the window functions, those all happen within Tauri. So we're within the Tauri builder. So we don't need to actually add those here. I think the notifications are going to be the only thing permission-wise that we're going to be doing in our Rust implementation within the web view. So we do need that there. So move this over. That should give us something that doesn't throw an error anymore. And I think we start swapping out this invoke. Toast message. I don't know that we need the toast message. So let's focus on this greet. We have an input on submit. We're doing a toast notification. Enter a message. On input, we're going to update name, which is firing off this set. So maybe that's fine. Maybe we do that. So on input, we're going to say update toast message, I guess. Update name, update toast message, and then on submit, this is what we were doing before I got distracted. Yeah, toast. We're getting errors in our both in our IDE and in the terminal, which is fine because we are cleaning this up still. And again, coming back to the question, Leptos versus doing it in, like React or whatever. I fix all of these errors, it's much more likely that it's just going to work. That tends to be less of the case within, within the context of like TypeScript. These are more hard guardrails, whereas TypeScript is a little bit more of a soft guardrail, as it were. So that ends up either being a feature or, it's either a pro or a con, depending on your goals. So let name get untracked. Name is coming from greet args. This should instead be, we'll call it toast args. It's not name anymore, it's a message. So toast args, submit event, let message be so let's see, move toast notification comes from here. Toast message input. I'm not sure where this get untracked. Toast notification comes here. Spawn local. And this all comes into this is all Leptos. So we are working through the Leptos bit of it right now, which I am less familiar with. So if message is empty, then we're just going to return. Others, we're going to do the toast stuff. We still getting any We're back. Is the question. Can't tell if we are. It looks like we might be working. Let's refresh the dashboard. Okay, maybe we are. Maybe we are. I know the dashboard was just like lagging out. Okay. I am definitely seeing more network connection. So I think we might be fine now. We back? We back? Seems like it. Let me know if there's still issues. I think I'm going to have to update my drivers or something. I'm not sure what the. It seems like Windows is and or my drivers are not cooperating. I've got two NICs, two network cards, two Ethernet plugs in there. One of them I had disabled because I ran into a similar issue at one point where it seemed to try to start going down one of the NICs, which I had marked as internal only, and then we got weird connection issues, but it's disabled right now, so it can only go through the one. It might just be this this Intel NIC needs some updates. Computers. Okay. So we're coming on an hour and a half. Let's see if we can get this bit wired up. I think this is what we want. I think we want to bind to the window notification and invoke these commands directly, because I don't think it makes sense for us to rewire that all ourselves if it's already available. We just want to hook into it. Now the is permission granted is going to return a value. Now the question is JS value. is JS value where does that end up being used? Invoke here, new message, we get a value back and then we set it. Okay. So this is a Boolean. I don't know. We're going to write it down for the moment. Boolean in JS. I don't know if it's supposed to also be, if there's like a JS Boolean or something. So request permission also takes no args, and it returns a what does this return? Request permission. So we get a permission back. So this ends up giving us a this. That probably makes sense as a JS value. I mean, I think theoretically we could type it, but we'll leave it at that for the moment. And then send notification is I think it's a function. Yes. Okay. Function. And that is going to take, right now we're doing a send notification. Send notification, we give it an options, of which it's expecting a title and a body. So toast args here. Args are going to be message and we do a title. I guess we could just hard code the title and args would be the body. So this is less toast args. Guess we could do call it a notification args. There's a title and a body. And here we end up, rather than doing it in Invoke, we're going to send a notification. Does this, I think this is a void. JS value doesn't actually live in Rust, but it actually is a table owned by the Wasum bindgen. Okay. And what's JS cast? We might end up having to look at the let's look at the Leptos docs for this. JS value. All right. Wasum bindgen. Ooh, that's bright. Oh, that's not okay. That works. Oh, they don't have a search on here. Interesting. WebSys. JS objects. So there's a JS value. Boolean and void are what we're looking for. They're Rust type conversions. So there's a U32. Wasum bindgen macro is running over this syntactical unresolved structure of the Rust code and is responsible for generating information that Wasum bindgen, the CLI tool later reads. Okay. Promises and futures. Okay, so async can be combined with the catch attribute to manage errors. All right. Are they all then async? So is this async? And these actually should be a result. Async function 3. What does this look like in this might be what we want. Static JS objects. Okay. Static colors clone. I think this is probably going to be the most involved a bit, especially for how I've used it. I haven't done too much Wasum bindgen, nor Leptos. So getting this bit working correctly is that's gonna be the fun part. Ray tracing. Wow. Okay. Oh, using console.log. Look at this. Log. Nice. So there's we can use the Wasum bindgen. It looks to do the log, which is nice. Use JS namespace to bind console.log. Got it. Okay. JS snippets. So add. Those would be like floats. Receiving JS closures. Promises and futures. I'm guessing we need the result for those too. Let promise resolve. Okay, so this, we're going to need this. I'm going to actually just copy this because we're going to end up using that somewhere around here. We don't need all that. Let's do these bits. And we've got, okay, so if it doesn't return anything, so like a void would just be a request permission. I guess so both of these actually do return stuff. This doesn't return anything, but this takes 2 bits. It takes the send notification. So send notification ends up being args JS value. Okay. Because of the results. I got it. All right. So we have to come back to that. I'm going to just take that off for the moment. Let's go back and look at our documentation here. So when we're doing a Rust Wasum bind gen, this is a catch. Okay, so maybe we need to do this catch. Do we have to do the Wasum bind gen for each one? Yeah, it looks like it. Okay. Oop. That's not what I meant to do. Come on. Why aren't you moving? So we got this and catch. So Wasm bind gen catch. There's a JS namespace. Can we just do like a catch? And a catch? Okay. That looks like seems to have satisfied it. Because these are going to be returning promises, which resolve into a Boolean or one of these three strings. And here, this is going to be args, and it's not actually returning anything, it's a void. So we don't have the invoke anymore, which makes sense. We can remove this. So now we need to do I think something like that. So if message is empty, it's going to return. Then we need to check if permission is granted. So the problem is, I don't know this JS value part. That's going to be the part that I'm not quite from promise. Wait, how do we like get this into a Boolean or not? That's going to be the bit that I'm not super up to speed on. So like if we just did the send notification right now, we ignored all this stuff and we said send notification. It takes an args of JS value, and those here we have to value, which is from Saturday Wasm bind gen. That gives us a JS value. And toast args, in reality, actually, I think we want to say we're going to switch this around a little bit. Toast args, we're going to get rid of notification. So I want to set up an args in which we can send to this function, this send notification function. We need a title and a body. This is going to be a title. Actually, this is going to be a body. And then we want a title. And this is just going to be like a string. And it needs to be a string reference. Let's see if I remember my Tauri toast notification. There we go. So now we qualified it as an async function. return a future instead of blocking the current thread. Now, notification, I guess it's not actually an async function, is it? So that may, we end up having these sort of manual types that we have to do. And it's dependent on us to give it the correct like type signature there to where when it builds and renders, we're getting the thing that we're expecting it to. So if we put something in here, we click this, hey, we got a toast notification. So we got that. I wonder if we can just send notifications without actually asking for permission. So what we have right now, what we've done, when we type something in here and we hit toast, we get the notification. It still comes in through Windows PowerShell, which it could just be a release build thing or something, but future us will deal with that in the future. This is going through Wasum. We have the wiring through Wasum bindgen to the Tauri notifications that are on the window object. And we're firing off a send notification, which is setting the body from the message that we filled in and setting the title as just this hard-coded piece. And we're not currently dealing with the permission part of it, but it works just straight away without asking for permission and just calling that send notification. So checkbox number 1, yes. Count that. Now we want to check with see if we can get the permission part to work, and this is going to be a little bit more involved because we got async and future stuff going on here. So we're going to do a thing where we say if in the same vein of what we were doing before, let's copy and paste this little bit. This is the JavaScript. So we're going to do something in the same vein, I think. So if there's no message, just return. That's fine. Then we're going to do and this is why I copied this bit right here. Let permission granted come from JSSys promise resolve object. So now is this end up being is permission granted? Doesn't seem to complain. Wasum bindgen futures JS future from promise await. We'll say we'll call this and this check permission. There. Now let's double check, see what close, please go away. There we go. The question mark operator can only be used in an async block that returns result. Oh, that makes sense. Okay. So this will end up returning a result. Okay. Now, the question is, I kind of want this to return a Boolean, right? Expected a reference JS value found future. JS future from a promise. So JSSys promise resolve an object that is resolved with a given value. Okay, so it's just resolving it directly. But let's double check on this code again. So get from JavaScript. It's basically like this isn't actually a promise, it's just resolving it. So it's doing like, it's like wrapping it as a promise. All right, let's see if we can work through this with the types. There's a JS promise. Race, resolve, reject. So all of those take a JS value, and it's this is returning a result. So if we do JS future, if we say is permission granted, what does that look like? What is it going to complain? Yeah. Expected promise found impl. So it's expecting a JS future. What does a JS future look like? That doesn't help me at all. So this definitely says result. I don't know what a JS future ends up being or looking like. Testing. I wish I could search in here. No, bool. Oh, here's a bool. So supported types. Can I just say it returns a boolean? I don't see anything that says anything about JavaScript feature though. JS feature. So this is JS value. We have a function, Wasum bindgen. X is a JS value. Box. You can also pass box slices of numbers to JavaScript. Numbers, boolean, string. Do I need to call it a JS value? The result type can be returned from functions exported to JavaScript as well as closures and the rest. Okay. But I am specifically interested in the promises. Promises and futures, which is where we were looking for before. So you use JS syspromise. Once you've got one of the values, you can convert that value to this, which implements the future. So we need to get a promise. So in Wasm bindgen, this is returning, async returns a JS value. So we can add the catch, which then gives us the results. So we want to export the REST function. Okay. So an empty returns into successful undefined in JavaScript. JS value. Okay. Functionally, I understand. I think what's happening there. So if we say result, can we do bool? Does it have to be a JS value? Is it going to handle this for us? And here result's going to be, it's just going to be a JS value. It's going to be one of these. It doesn't like that enum because it's a result. So I guess it's a JS value for both then, right? It's going to be a bool or it's going to be a JS error. And request permission is going to be like this. So now we have permission granted. Wasum by engine future. So we need a promise so we can await said promise. Now we have JS promise resolve. Is there like a from? From a value. So is permission granted? Wasum by engine futures JS promise as convert. If we do, let's just see what this is. Let thing equal this. It's a got it. Ample future. So it's already a future. Do we not need to do any of this? Is it wiring it up for us? So if we say dot unwrap, that's a Boolean. Wasum by engine JS hire doesn't implement debug. Okay. Returns the contained error value consuming itself with checking the values. Okay. So with the unwrap or default, we can set a default. Unused variable, okay. So now, are we able to just then say if permission granted, then do a thing? So we should not have permissions to do this right now. The trait standard error is not okay. We're getting errors up here. I don't know that we want JS error here. I don't really know what the limitation is here. Incompatible types. Operator can from ooh, interesting. So it cannot convert from Wasum bind gen JS value to Boolean. Expected bool because of the return type. Got it. So if we do this here, it's going to give us a JS value. And if I set a JS error here, we are still getting that. Yeah, we are still getting that issue there. I'm gonna leave it as a JS value. So now the question is, this isn't a Boolean anymore, because I can't make this a bool. Oh, there's use JS as Boolean. Okay. Question mark operator cannot convert from Wasm bind gen to bool. So how do you do that? Let's actually go ahead and Google that, see if we can get some see if we can get a little help here. This is on Rust Wasm. JSON error. So this, in this case, it's an impl and it's implementing, or the return is a project. That's Wasm bind gen. Oh, okay. They're saying that that's potentially an issue. There's a JS sys error. It's not idiomatic to throw JS values like throw foo because that loses stack traces. In Wasm bind gen, this corresponds to error JS sys error new. Oof. Which makes it easy for users to return non-error values. Yep. Okay. So if we do the unwrap, we're basically ignoring the error, which is probably fine for right now. And if we just call that a JS value, let's try Rust Wasm bind gen bool. Sure, let's try that. Oh, this is where we were before. Example JavaScript usage. So true, return bool. Type of B is Boolean. Okay. So this is taking a Boolean. It is more about returning it though. Return value, yes. Expected bool because of the return type. Question mark operator has incompatible types. Cannot convert from Wasum bindgen JS value to bool. We may end up needing to dig into that a little bit. As in, not on stream, because I don't really know what the appropriate fix is here. But if we say dot to owned is falsy, is object, is string, is truthy. Okay. So if permission granted is truthy, then do that. That might be enough. I still don't know that like this is going to be the appropriate way, because I mean, I guess in JavaScript, truthiness is really a involved thing, because strings can be truthy. All right, so we do some stuff in here, and we get this. It is still doing the toast notification, so we do technically have permission granted. So now the question is, if we have permission granted, how are we getting the permission? Now here what we're doing is we're reassigning it. So if we say is falsy, we should get the opposite, right? So it should not work. If we refresh this, we type here and we hit that. Okay, so it is truthy. So in some manner, we're getting permission granted, like permission is being granted. So this is falsy is checking that. And I do want to abstract this out a little bit, but I'm less familiar with Leptos that that might be something we do in the future. No pun intended. So if this is in our JavaScript we're reassigning it, which is the thing. I'm not terribly keen on that pattern. We're checking if it is granted, and if it is not, then what we want to do is, if it is falsy, then we want to check. And we want to say request permission dot await. So if it's falsy, then we're going to await for permission. Otherwise, we're going to send a notification. Send. What are we complaining about down here? Spawn local move. We got an extra one in there. Because the other bit then is once we've requested permission, do we literally just do this again? So if we do something like, well, in else, if we do an if else, when it's truthy, you'd have to like click it twice. So we need to, when you click, we need to then check that they have permission, it has actually been granted. So it's almost like a recursive thing, which is you could continually check. I don't know if I end up actually using this set toast message, do I? Oh, it's already set, so I don't have to reset it. That makes sense. And I don't think we need this bit. So if it's falsy, then we just await. Let permission. So this is going to give us a result. Dot unwrap. I think we can do that as an unwrap now. And ideally, like we're gonna have to deal with those errors because potentially those could throw. If we do a refresh here, I think it's gonna end up giving us the same thing because permission has already been granted. If we look at the console, we don't have anything there. We got a Wasum bind gen. These are specifically to namespaces. I'm going to remove this. I am going to, should I throw it in a console log? I was going to throw it in a console log, but maybe not. So the only bit is this, how is permission being granted? It could be because I've granted it in the past, because you can see when you click this, it's going through the Windows PowerShell, which is kind of, something is off with that. If I've granted it already for the Windows PowerShell, any app that I do is always going to have permission. If it's all going through the Windows PowerShell, it might just be a dev thing, but that's something to think about. I suppose we could, if we look at notification settings, and can I turn it off? I don't see it in the list. Turn off all notifications. So I could turn them off here. So now when I click this, I'm not getting anything. And this is the permission bit. So we are checking permission granted. If it's falsy, then we request permission, but I'm not getting the request. And I'm not seeing any indication here. Let's throw in the log real quick, because I think that's going to be the fastest way that I know how to debug this. So let's add in the log here. We're going to do say log message. Why are you complaining? Found expected string. So if I do this, so this is a JS value. It's probably not going to complain. Yeah. Let's log all this out. Let's see what happens here. Oh, now it's complaining. Mismatch types. Expected reference string, found reference, Wasum by gen. Yeah. So we're specifically saying it's a string. They do mention this here. Console log is quite polymorphic. You can have many different kinds of things. I'm just going to switch this to the JS value. I just want it to log. I don't really care about the message either. I'm going to log out the permission granted, and I'm going to log out the permission response, just so we get something here. Is it refreshing? Can't tell. Okay, we got a true. Okay, so permission has been granted, so it's just skipping over this whole block. But I've turned it off, which is interesting because I've turned it off, or I've hidden them. And I have no idea how to. Like the Windows PowerShell is not even an option in the notifications. Boy. So I'm not getting any notifications, and sort by there must be some like expectation for registering it or something. Apps. I'm doing this on the side partly because I'm not sure what's all going to show up in this, but power shell is not related settings. Sure. I don't know how to turn the notifications back on. So we are getting this permission granted, and it's saying true, so we're skipping this bit. So if permission is granted, we skip over this and we don't request. Now the question is, if this comes back and if we request permission, I suppose what we can do is we can just no op. So we can say if permission and this is going to come back to these are the types here. If is not granted. So if permission that's JavaScript syntax. So if permission dot we've got some is to owned because I don't really need to do the to owned, but is null, is object, is falsy. As Boolean. Ooh, as Boolean. Okay. Can I do a dot as bool? Option bool. Okay. I mean, honestly, I'm kind of okay with just if it is falsy. So let's see. What else do we got on here? As bool as string. So if permission as string equals, is there not equals? Can I do this? I don't remember. Does not equal Granted. Return. Okay, so as string returns an option. So if I unwrap that, cool. I don't know how I can test this now, though. I think like the types appear to work out, but also I have a lot of control over the types, so I could just be blitzing my types basically. I am going to just remove all of this because I don't really need it in our final implementation here. We can tweak a little bit of the CSS, I think. Styles.css. Public. Dist. Here it is. Here it is. Let us just add a little bit of padding here. Container padding top. Let's just say padding. Probably gonna be too much, but because we've got a container, main class container. Okay, padding. Let's say 5 pixels. We'll just we're hard coded for the moment. It's overwriting though. The because I'll be do a padding left, padding right. Sure, why not? Are we? Oh. It must have some built-in. Oh, there's a lot of styles here. I really don't feel like dealing with styles at the moment. Okay. We're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. And we're going to make the window slightly bigger. Honestly, I'm okay with that. It's sort of the cheeky workaround. With 400. I'll do 350. That might be enough. Hey Chris, good to see you. No, they are old classes. I just usually wear contacts on the stream, and I was busy and completely forgot that I had them on. I started the stream. We were talking about different operating systems, and I was like, yeah, you can do the like glasses ones, the iOS glasses or whatever. I'm like, oh, speaking of glasses, I didn't put contacts in. Oh, thank you. I like them. These are from Orby Parker. I ended up getting them because they do the shipping where you can ship and try stuff on, and I ended up getting them around COVID, and it was very inconvenient to get new glasses at that point, and my previous pair was like 10 years old. So I was like, well, I didn't want to wear contacts quite as much, and I wanted glasses, and so that was a very reasonable option when you couldn't go to any actual stores. And I like the experience. I like the glasses. Okay, it may not be the best code, but we have something that appears to be working as expected. We could potentially improve this situation here. But what we have done, let's give a sort of a high-level summary here. We have a Leptos view not doing too much, a form where you input a toast message and a button to then execute the piece. We have some Wasum bindgen, which is hooking into the plugin that's injected into the window via __ Tauri. And we can pull out the couple of functions that it is wired up. So we don't need to manually set up all the invokes, as comes with the Create Tauri app default greet template. We set up the toast args, which is I wonder if we can actually combine those a little bit. But send notification takes the args, which is effectively these toast args. When you click the button, we use that message that you've input, updated through the create signal. So we have it here. If it's empty, we return. We check for permission status being granted versus not. And afterwards, we create the args as a JS value and send it off. This little bit right here, we could potentially do more where we can continue to check or continue to try that permission. But for the moment, this would be a quick way to like check, and if it's good to go, send it off. And that is implementing in Leptos all through Rust, then into the web view via Wasum, the Tauri notification plugin, which is injected via the window object and firing off those JavaScript bits. The existing examples, or the examples that come in with Create Tauri app, as mentioned, those use the built-in Invoke directly, which I think can work for commands. For the commands, I think you're going to probably fire off the invokes directly. But with any of these plugins, especially if there's the JavaScript implementations that are doing a lot more or many types of invokes rather than wiring all that up multiple times, well, wiring it up after it having been already wired up and available in the window object, we can just hook into it directly through this, which I think is going to work pretty nice. It's there, we might as well use it, is kind of what it comes down to. I think for at least future me understanding this, the JS value, especially in the Wasum bindgen, I think I would like to dig in more, because like this is a Boolean, and this is, I mean, effectively this is like an enum. So I think we could represent this better. And also looking at taking this and abstracting it out, similar to what we have done in the JavaScript side of things, would be a piece that we could look at. In the JavaScript side of things, we have this piece, which is abstracted out, and we can use in the view. We set it up, and in this case, we have wired it up to effect used, set up notifications, set notifications. We have it in state, and this state then is passed into context, in which case anywhere within our app, we can use context and pull in the notifications or the tray and fire off functions basically anywhere in our app. That's really handy. I think that would be the bits that would be nice to hook up in Leptos, but I'm that's like far and away from what I know of Leptos, so we'd have to do I mean, we're at 2.5 hours. It would be another 2.5 hours at least. But I mean, this is working. Yeah, so some of that typing I think would probably be the big thing that I would want to deal with. Oh, and then I want to know Tuesday subathon. All right. I missed last week. I'm sure I need to do work stuff though. So the thing that I do want to look into, and this is potentially a future stream, is the around the notifications. I've not rejected the permissions, but I've like hid the Winter PowerShell notifications, so we don't get any notifications anymore. Which is kind of a good way to, can't do any more with the stuff on the stream if you don't get any notifications. I'm not getting any now. So it comes through A, why is it coming through Windows PowerShell? B, I think we tested it and did a release build and it still was. So do we need to do something with our notification code to make it like come through our registered app or something? And then 3, in Windows, like, wow, how do you turn it back on? If the default for development is through Windows PowerShell, notification, like it's literally just not in this list. Is there anything in here that I need to? Not really. Notifications from apps or other centers. It's not in here. Fan control, Discord. I turned it off. It's never shown in this list. I don't know how to get it in this list to like turn it back on. Get notification and other senders. So it's like it's not registered or something. I don't know. So those are going to be potentially 3 future things to look at. I don't know if those are all like specific stream content, but we pretty much have a full JavaScript, full Rust. There's some cleanup we can do, and then I think the next thing we want to do is start looking at snippets. I don't know if we'll switch things up for next stream and do a little bit different topic for a little bit, but we do want to figure out some good snippets that we can put in place where somebody could fork or create a template, whatever the functionality is, and get called copy and paste a couple snippets and then have like a working Pomodoro timer or to-do app or something like that, where we've got these like chunks of code where they're potentially common implementations of things. Man, this PowerShell thing is really bugging me. I don't know. If I figure it out, I'll put it in the comments. We ran into it a couple weeks ago too, and it was confusing then as well. But future us. I think that's it. Well, TBD on next. Maybe some snippets, maybe not. If you have any ideas for future streams, again, leave it in the comments. I think I've got a couple ideas queued up from folks, and I still have a couple guests I want to get on stream, but we just haven't been able to make those timings meet up. But eventually. Have a great rest of your week, everybody. Happy Tuesday. See you next week, hopefully. No more sickness. I'm sick of the sick. Have a good week. Bye.